My routine had become a comforting ritual over the years. I would wake up early, brew a fresh pot of coffee, and sit at the kitchen table to plan my day. The mornings were always quiet, offering a brief respite before the hustle and bustle of daily life took over. My wife, ever the night owl, would still be asleep, wrapped in the blankets, oblivious to the world outside. Our life together had settled into a predictable rhythm. We had met in college, quickly falling into an easy companionship that blossomed into love. Our relationship had its highs and lows, but we navigated them with what I believed was mutual understanding and respect. We got married, bought a house in the suburbs, and settled into what felt like a good life. But something changed over the past year. The subtle shift was almost imperceptible at first. She started coming home later from work, citing new projects and after-hours meetings. I didn't question it initially. We both had careers that demanded our attention, and I trusted her. One evening, as I was cleaning up after dinner, I noticed her phone buzzing on the counter. It wasn't unusual for her to receive messages, but the frequency had noticeably increased. Curious, I glanced at the screen. It was a message from a number I didn't recognize, but the content was innocuous enough. A simple, "Can't wait to see you again." I shrugged it off, telling myself it was probably just a friend or colleague. Weeks went by, and the messages continued. Each time I caught a glimpse, the language grew more intimate. My unease grew, but I was wary of jumping to conclusions. Confrontation had never been my strong suit, and I didn't want to come off as paranoid. I decided to let it slide, hoping it was all just a misunderstanding. One Saturday morning, I decided to surprise her with breakfast in bed. I quietly cooked her favorite omelet and brewed a fresh pot of coffee. Carrying the tray upstairs, I nudged the bedroom door open with my foot. She was in bed, her back turned to the door, talking softly on the phone. I paused, not wanting to intrude, but her words stopped me cold. "I miss you too," she whispered, her voice tinged with a tenderness that I hadn't heard directed at me in months. "I can't wait until we can be together again." I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. The tray wobbled in my hands, and I had to steady myself against the doorframe. She turned, her eyes widening in surprise and guilt when she saw me standing there. "I was just talking to a friend," she stammered, her face flushing. "You know, from work." I nodded, unable to find my voice. The seed of doubt that had been planted weeks ago now took root, and I could feel it growing. I set the tray down on the nightstand and left the room without a word. My mind was racing, trying to piece together the fragments of evidence I had accumulated over the past few months. The days that followed were a blur. I threw myself into work, trying to distract myself from the gnawing suspicion that had taken hold of me. But the signs were impossible to ignore. She was increasingly distant, her laughter forced, her touch perfunctory. One evening, after another late night at the office for her, I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know the truth. I waited until she fell asleep, then carefully took her phone from the nightstand. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through her messages. "Dear viewers, more than 90% watch my content without subscribing. If you still have not subscribed, then I ask you to do so. For me, this is the best motivation to continue." What I found confirmed my worst fears. There were dozens of messages from the same number, filled with declarations of love and plans for the future. My heart sank as I read through them, each word a dagger to my already wounded heart. It was clear that this wasn't just a fling. It was a full-blown affair. They had been seeing each other for months, meeting in secret, sharing moments that should have been ours. I put the phone back and lay down next to her, my mind racing. How had we come to this? What had I missed? I felt a wave of anger and betrayal wash over me, but I also felt a deep sadness. I had loved her with everything I had, and now it felt like all of that had been for nothing. The next morning I confronted her. I told her what I had found, how I had known for weeks, but had been too afraid to face the truth. She didn't deny it. Instead, she looked at me with a mixture of guilt and relief, as if a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. "I never meant to hurt you," she said, tears streaming down her face. "But I can't keep living a lie. I love him." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I stood there stunned, trying to process what she had just said. All the years we had spent together, the life we had built, it all seemed to crumble in an instant. We spent hours talking, Or rather, she talked while I listened in numb silence. She explained how it had started, how she had felt neglected and unappreciated, how he had made her feel alive again. I listened, trying to understand, but it all felt like a bad dream. In the weeks that followed, we tried to pick up the pieces. We saw a therapist, hoping to salvage what was left of our marriage, but it soon became clear that too much damage had been done. The trust was gone, replaced by a chasm of hurt and betrayal that neither of us could bridge. Eventually, we decided to separate. The decision was mutual, but it didn't make it any easier. We divided our belongings, sold the house, and went our separate ways. The divorce was finalized quietly, without drama or fanfare. Just two people who had once loved each other now going their own ways. In the aftermath, I spent a lot of time reflecting on what had happened. I realized that I had been so caught up in my own world that I had failed to see the signs. I had taken our relationship for granted, assuming that our love was enough to weather any storm. But love, I learned, is not enough on its own. It needs to be nurtured, tended to like a garden, or it withers and dies. I don't know where she is now, or if she's happy. I hope she is. As for me, I've slowly started to rebuild my life. It's been a long, painful process, but I've come to accept what happened and to learn from it. I still believe in love, but I've learned that it requires more than just good intentions. It requires effort, understanding, and above all, honesty. Months passed since the divorce, and I found myself navigating a new life, one marked by solitude and introspection. I moved into a small apartment downtown, a stark contrast to the suburban house we once shared. The change of scenery was a welcome distraction, a chance to start anew. Work became my sanctuary. I threw myself into projects, taking on more responsibilities, working late into the night. My colleagues noticed the change in me, but were polite enough not to pry. I appreciated their discretion, finding solace in the routine and structure that work provided. In the evenings, I would often walk through the city. Dear viewers, I ask you to subscribe to the channel under this video. I will be very grateful to you, losing myself in the noise and movement. It was during these walks that I began to reconnect with myself, rediscovering passions and interests that had been buried under the weight of a failing marriage. I started reading again, picking up novels and non-fiction books that had long gathered dust on my shelves. I joined a local gym, finding that physical exertion helped clear my mind and lift my spirits. Despite the progress I was making, there were still moments when the past would creep up on me. I would find myself reaching for the phone to call her, only to remember that she was no longer a part of my life. Memories would flood back unbidden, triggered by a song on the radio or a familiar scent. It was in these moments that the pain felt fresh, as if no time had passed at all. One night, as I was returning from one of my walks, I received a call from an old friend. We hadn't spoken in years, our lives having taken different paths, but he had heard about the divorce and wanted to check in. We met for coffee the next day, and it was like no time had passed. We talked for hours, catching up on lost time, sharing stories and laughter. It was a reminder that life goes on, and that new connections can be forged even in the midst of loss. As the months turned into a year, I slowly began to rebuild my social life. I joined a book club, where I met people who shared my love of literature. I started volunteering at a local shelter, finding purpose in helping others. These activities filled the void that had been left by the end of my marriage, giving me a sense of community and belonging. One evening at a book club meeting, I met someone who would become an important part of my life. She was intelligent, kind, and had a warmth that drew people to her. We bonded over our shared love of books and quickly became friends. There was no rush, no pressure, just a natural connection that felt right. As our friendship grew, so did my feelings for her. It was a slow, gradual process, but one that felt genuine and real. I was hesitant at first, afraid of repeating past mistakes, but she was patient and understanding. We talked openly about our pasts, our fears, and our hopes for the future. It was through these conversations that I realized how much I had grown, how much I had learned from my previous relationship. Eventually, we took the leap and started dating. It was a new beginning, one marked by mutual respect and understanding. I was determined not to repeat the mistakes of the past, to be more present and attentive. We spent our days exploring the city, trying new restaurants, attending concerts and exhibitions. Life felt vibrant and full of possibilities once again. In time, I introduced her to my family and friends. They were happy to see me moving on, to see me happy again. It wasn't always easy. There were still moments of doubt and insecurity, but we faced them together, with honesty and communication. Looking back, I realized that the experience of betrayal and loss had fundamentally changed me. It had been a painful lesson, but one that had ultimately made me stronger and more resilient. I had learned the importance of communication, of not taking love for granted, and of always striving to be the best partner I could be. Now, as I stand on the threshold of a new chapter in my life, I feel a sense of hope and optimism. The past is behind me, and while it has shaped who I am, it does not define me. I am ready to embrace the future, to build a life filled with love, laughter, and endless possibilities. One autumn afternoon, as I sat on the porch of our new home, I found myself reflecting on the intricate web of life's experiences that had brought me to this moment. The leaves were turning brilliant shades of red and gold, a reminder of the beauty that can emerge from change. It struck me how, despite the pain of the past, I had come to a place of profound contentment. It was during one of these reflective moments that an unexpected opportunity arose. My partner and I had been discussing ways to give back to the community, inspired by our own journey of growth and healing. We decided to start a support group for individuals who had experienced infidelity and relationship trauma. Our goal was to create a safe space where people could share their stories, find solace in shared experiences, and learn strategies for moving forward. The group quickly gained traction. We rented a small community center room and began holding weekly meetings. Each session started with a brief introduction, followed by an open floor where participants could speak freely. The stories shared were varied and poignant, ranging from fresh wounds to long-healed scars. It was a humbling experience, witnessing the raw vulnerability and resilience of the human spirit. One evening, a man about my age stood up to share his story. His wife had left him for another man, a betrayal that had shattered his world. As he spoke, I saw in him a reflection of my former self, the confusion, the hurt, the desperate search for answers. After the meeting, I approached him, offering a listening ear and a cup of coffee. We sat for hours, exchanging experiences and insights. It was a reminder of how far I had come and how much I still had to offer. As the support group grew, so did my sense of purpose. Helping others navigate their pain was healing for me as well. It reinforced the idea that we are all connected, that our experiences, no matter how painful, can serve a greater good. My partner was instrumental in this endeavor, bringing her own perspective and empathy to the table. Together, we formed a strong team, each of us contributing in our own unique way. In addition to the support group, I found myself drawn to writing. I started a blog, chronicling my journey from betrayal to healing. The act of putting my thoughts into words was therapeutic, allowing me to process my emotions and share my insights with a wider audience. To my surprise, the blog gained a following, resonating with people from all walks of life. Readers reached out to share their own stories, to seek advice, or simply to express their gratitude. It was a reminder of the power of connection and the importance of sharing our truths. One day, I received an email from a publisher who had stumbled upon my blog. They were interested in turning my story into a book, believing it could provide comfort and guidance to others going through similar experiences. I was both thrilled and apprehensive. Writing a book was a daunting task, but the opportunity to reach more people and make a difference was too significant to pass up. With my partner's encouragement, I agreed to the project. Writing the book was a journey in itself. It required me to revisit painful memories, to delve deep into my emotions, and to articulate lessons learned. There were days when the process felt overwhelming, but my partner was a constant source of support. She reminded me of the importance of my story, of the impact it could have on others. Slowly but surely, the manuscript took shape. The book, titled From Shadows to Light, was published a year later. It was a deeply personal account of my journey, interwoven with insights from the support group and contributions from my partner. The response was overwhelming. Readers from around the world reached out to share how the book had helped them, how it had given them hope and strength. It was a humbling and gratifying experience, knowing that my story had made a difference. As my professional and personal life flourished, I continued to grow and evolve. I took up new hobbies, exploring interests that had been dormant for years. Photography became a passion, a way to capture the beauty and complexity of the world around me. My partner and I traveled whenever we could, immersing ourselves in different cultures and experiences. Each trip was an adventure, a chance to create new memories and deepen our bond. One particularly memorable trip was to a remote village in the mountains. We stayed in a small, family-run guest house, spending our days hiking through breathtaking landscapes and our evenings by the fire, sharing stories with fellow travelers. It was during one of these evenings that I had a profound realization. Life, with all its ups and downs, is a journey of discovery. Each experience, no matter how painful or joyous, shapes us and leads us to new horizons. Back home, our lives settled into a comfortable routine. The support group continued to thrive, and I found myself taking on a mentorship role for newer members. It was rewarding to see them progress, to witness their growth and healing. The group had become a second family, a community bound by shared experiences and mutual support. Professionally, I continued to excel. The promotion had opened doors to new opportunities, and I embraced them with enthusiasm. My work was fulfilling, challenging me in ways that kept me engaged and motivated. I found a balance between my career and personal life, ensuring that I made time for the people and activities that mattered most to me. As I reflect on my journey, I am filled with a sense of gratitude. The path has not been easy, but it has led me to a place of peace and fulfillment. I have learned to embrace life's uncertainties, to find strength in vulnerability, and to cherish the connections that enrich my life. The scars of the past remain, but they are a testament to my resilience and growth. They remind me of the lessons learned, of the importance of love, honesty, and self-care. They are a part of who I am, but they do not define me. Instead, they serve as a reminder of the journey I have taken and the possibilities that lie ahead. Life is a continuous journey, one that is ever-changing and unpredictable. I have learned to embrace it with open arms, to welcome each new chapter with hope and optimism. I am surrounded by love, supported by a strong partner, and fortified by the lessons of my past. The future is bright, and I am ready to embrace it with open arms. Years have passed since the day I discovered my wife's infidelity. Time, as they say, heals all wounds, though some scars remain. I've learned to live with those scars, to see them not as marks of pain, but as symbols of growth and resilience. The woman I met at the book club is now my partner, and together we have created a life filled with joy and mutual respect. We bought a house in a quiet neighborhood, a place where we could build new memories and create a home that reflected our shared values and dreams. Our relationship is different from my first marriage in many ways. We are both committed to open and honest communication. We make it a point to check in with each other regularly, to talk about our feelings and address any issues before they can fester. This level of transparency has created a strong foundation of trust and understanding. We've also made it a priority to keep our relationship dynamic and exciting. We plan regular date nights, take spontaneous trips, and always make time for each other despite our busy schedules. It's not always easy, but the effort we put in is worth it. We've found that these small acts of love and consideration help keep our bond strong. Reflecting on my journey, I realize how much I have changed. I am no longer the person who once took love for granted. I've learned to appreciate the small moments, the quiet acts of kindness that form the bedrock of a strong relationship. I've also learned the importance of self-care and personal growth. I continue to pursue my hobbies and interests, ensuring that I remain fulfilled and happy as an individual. I've reconnected with old friends and built new relationships. My social circle has expanded, and I've surrounded myself with people who uplift and support me. These connections have been invaluable, providing me with a sense of community and belonging. Professionally, I've reached new heights. My dedication to work paid off, and I received a promotion that came with increased responsibilities and challenges. I've embraced these opportunities, using them as a platform to grow and excel. My career has become a source of pride and fulfillment, complementing the happiness I've found in my personal life. Occasionally, thoughts of my ex-wife cross my mind. I wonder how she is doing, if she found the happiness she was searching for. Despite the pain she caused, I bear her no ill will. Our time together taught me valuable lessons, and for that, I am grateful. I hope she too has learned and grown from our shared experiences. Life, I've come to understand, is a series of chapters. Some are filled with joy and others with sorrow, but each one contributes to the story of who we are. My journey through betrayal and heartbreak has ultimately led me to a place of peace and contentment. It has shaped me into a more empathetic, understanding, and resilient person. As I look to the future, I do so with hope and excitement. I know there will be challenges ahead, but I am confident in my ability to face them. I am surrounded by love, supported by a strong partner, and fortified by the lessons of my past. This chapter of my life is still being written, and I am eager to see where it leads. With each day, I strive to be the best version of myself, to love deeply and live fully. The past is a part of me, but it does not define me. The future is bright, and I am ready to embrace it with open arms.